Okay, physics students, quick tutorial on Circuits Lab 50. Once again, when you get to this page, the simulations, physics, on the left side, this is Colorado FET simulations. Down here, electricity and magnets, click on that. You want this version, the DC Circuit Construction Kit DC. You do not want this one up in the upper right. Choose this one, and then you play it. And you do not want the intro, you want the lab. So make sure you click on the lab, double click. All right, so quick tutorial then, you've done this before, but for lab 50A, grab the regular battery here. In the picture on the lab sheet that you will receive, it has 3 light bulbs, so I just pull them out, just click and drag them over. I'm going to space things out a little bit here. I think it says in the lab sheet to take out the switch. Over here on the left, there's a switch. I'm going to put the switch right here where you can turn the circuit on and off. But I'm going to pull out wires one by one, set this up. Once again, this is pretty straightforward. I think you have the idea already, but let me just make sure. There's a couple things that might be new here. Try to make these look nice. You don't need to make them look nice, but people who do this for a living, obviously it doesn't look quite like this on paper, but they make it try to look, nice. All right, when I hook this up, this is called a series circuit. I'm going to click on this switch right here. If I click on that, okay, the light bulbs light up. These little yellow lines mean they're lit up. We have an active circuit here. The little blue dots are electrons moving. The flow of those electrons is called the current. All right, and all 3 light bulbs are lit up. This is called a series circuit because there's just one pathway all the way around. Doesn't really matter whether this one's on the right side. This bulb I could have put down here. As long as it's just one looping path or one road, so to speak, that's called a series. If you are an electron, one of these electrons, if you follow it along, it has to go up this way, down this way, through this wire. Once it goes through this light bulb, things cannot back up. They have to keep going forward. You are forced to go through the next light bulb and the next light bulb. That's why those are considered series. The flow of the current is the same in all these bulbs. But you're going to be like clicking on these and changing them. I think that this battery here, I just clicked on it. It brings up this slider. I think you're going to change it. I forget now. 25 volts. I forget if it's 25 or 20 volts. Whatever it says in the lab. Then you can use these arrows to slight adjust by 0.5 volts at a time. If I can trash that battery, which I do not want to do. If I click on this light bulb, I think you're at some point supposed to change that to, once again, look at the numbers in the lab. You can do fine adjustments this way. I think it says to make that 20 or something like that. So I'm going to just use fine adjustments to get that to 20. Then you're supposed to observe how bright these bulbs are. Once again, you can see in this case that this bulb now is brighter, which means more power than the other 2 bulbs. Other things you'll be doing in this lab is sometimes you're going to be moving bulbs around. Like if I click on that connection right there, I hit disconnect. Everything disconnects. I hit this disconnect because it says to take this bulb and switch it with, this is called bulb 1. I have bulb 1, bulb 2, and bulb 3. They are resistors. They are a specific type of resistor. I'm going to clip that and clip this. And basically you're going to take that bulb over here. I can click and drag to get this to kind of look a little bit nicer. And then put this bulb over here. Bottom line is you're going to be switching the bulbs around and telling or answering questions about what changed. So make sure you're looking at these yellow lines, which represent how bright the bulbs are, and so forth. Okay, so once again, when you're done with this, so you'll be doing lab 50B the next day. Down here on the right, if I hit this, it clears everything out, so be careful. Once you've cleared it out, it's gone. I don't think you can get it back. But in 50B, you'll be taking out the battery. I think it says to take the battery and put it over here on the left. I'm going to try to make it look like 50B. 50B has 3 light bulbs. It's called a parallel circuit. And let me hook this up. You'll see it when you get the sheet, if you don't already have the sheet. I think it says to put the switch right here. The switch is not that important. It's just to turn things on and off. You can get by without it, but it's just to show you, it's like your light switch in your bedroom or wherever you have light switches in your house to turn on lights on and off. All right, so right now I'm just clicking and dragging So that's a series circuit right there. If I click on this, that light bulb should come on. I'm going to click that off for a second. But now I'm going to connect up the other light bulbs in this parallel circuit. Sometimes this is called parallel because there are parallel lines, but it really doesn't have anything to do with parallel lines. I'm hooking these first two up so that these bulbs are in parallel lines, so to speak. But just to show you, you don't have to put the third bulb in a parallel line geometrically. Let me move it over just a little bit. All right, so connect this up. So the third bulb is still connected in parallel with the other three, even though it's not on a parallel line. I could have put this bulb right here, which is what I would normally do, but I just want to show you that it's not always parallel lines. So a couple other things to keep in mind, and once again, I'll be asking you questions. There are what are called branches and junctions. For example, this spot right here where there's a connection of 3 or more wires is called a junction. In other words, when the electrons come here, they have a choice. That flow of electrons is called current. They can choose to go this way, through this bulb right here, or they can go that way, go to this junction, and then when they get there, they can split. So a single pathway is called a branch. So this is a branch out here. There's one light bulb on that branch. I could have put another light bulb on that branch, like right here. I can get rid of that. I'll just to show you that I can do that. You're not really doing that in this lab, just to kind of get fancy. Then these two bulbs out here, just to kind of reiterate or illustrate the difference between series and parallel. These two light bulbs out here on the far end, these two are in series with each other. They're in one branch. And together they are in parallel with these other two. We'll talk more about that later on. That's a little bit more advanced for now, but I just want to show you what's coming. These two are in series. They're in the same pathway, same road. Together they're in series with each other, and as a lump sum, they're in parallel with the other two. But I'm going to take that one back out because you don't need to do that. I could replace this with one wire, or I just connect that together. So bottom line is that's a junction there. That's a junction where wires come together. This right here is not really a junction. That's just one wire connected to another second wire. So it's got to be 2 or more wires together to make a junction. And each little pathway is called a branch. Okay, so once again, what you're going to be doing in this lab is going to be clicking on this. I think the battery you have to change to a certain voltage. You're going to be changing the resistance of this bulb. You're going to be sliding it up and down at times. So you can use the slider. Sometimes it says to go really high, sometimes to go really low. Ooh, watch what happens when it gets really low. That's called a short circuit because there's no resistance there. All the current goes there. We'll talk about that later. But other things you're going to be doing in this circuit will be like the other circuit where you're going to be taking this bulb out or disconnecting it. I'll disconnect it at 2 spots and switching it with this bulb right here. So initially I'm going to call this bulb 1, call it R1, resistor number 1. This is resistor number 2 and resistor number 3. So like the last part A, you take these apart, click on the scissors here. I'm going to just switch these 2 bulbs. It's going to ask you what happens when you switch the 2 bulbs, how does it change the circuit, yada, yada, yada. So those are things to look for. Look at, the flow of current, these electrons moving into wires, this current flowing, this current. One thing to think about, for example, if I was like, say, standing right here, if I was inside this wire, for 1 minute I counted the electrons. Say there was 100 electrons passing me every minute. So those 100 electrons are going into this junction right here. And what would happen here, what has to happen because of conservation of charge, if I have 100 electrons going in there every minute, that means if I count this and this branch and this branch, there might be 90 going this way and 10 going that way. So, but 90 plus 10 is 100. So if 90 go this way, they get here, once again, they split up, and say 70 go this way and 10 go that way. So every time you get to a junction, the electrons split. That's going to be for a future lesson, but you're just making some observations on this lab. You're not going to be doing really any calculations, just observations. What's happening to the brightness? Make note of how big these yellow lines are. This bulb right here is dimmer than the other two. These two are about the same brightness as each other. So that's a tutorial on Lab 50, and look for that PDF file. And then after you do the PDF file, after you do the lab, then there'll be a Socrative where you will input your answers, and we'll go from there.